My next guest in Gordon Street tonight is the founder and president of the Sea Shepherd Conservation Society and the captain of their flagship anti-whaling vessel, the Steve Irwin. Please welcome Paul Watson.
Brought you a Sea Shepherd shirt and hat.
Oh, wow, thank you so much. I'm assuming this is not as bad fashion, this is good fashion.
Yeah, it's actually an official cruise shirt. So.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
I'm quite chuffed by that. Now, you've been protecting animals since you were a kid, basically. What was it that got you started?
Well, I lived in an eastern Canadian fishing village, and I found a beaver in a lake-hold trap.
Yeah.
So I rescued it, and then I began to walk the trap lines and free them and destroy the trap. So I started at the age of 11.
Wow, okay. So, and basically that's kind of what you've been doing ever since?
Ever since, yeah. I was the youngest founding member of Greenpeace at 18, and now I'm 60 and I'm still doing it.
So what was it that then led you on to protecting whales?
1975, we came out and went to this campaign to protect whales from the Russian whaling fleet.
Yeah.
And I found myself in a small boat with another guy, and Robert Hunter, and we got in front of the harpoon vessel, and we thought we could save them by blocking the harpoon. We were reading a lot of Gandhi at the time. I think we thought it would work. But so suddenly we were there and we were feeling really good about it, and they weren't killing the whale. And then suddenly the captain came down the catwalk, and he screamed into the ear of the harpooner. And then he looked at us and went like that. That's when I realized Gandhi wasn't going to work. And a few moments later, this horrendous explosion went over her head and slammed into the backside of one of the whales, and it exploded, and she screamed. It's like a woman screaming. And suddenly turned on her side, and a fountain of blood. And the largest whale in that pod suddenly slapped the water, disappeared under the surface, and swam up underneath of us, and threw himself at the bow of the harpoon vessel to protect his kind. And then they were ready for him. And the harpooner pulled the trigger, and the second harpoon, point blank range, exploded in his head. He fell back screaming and thrashing in agony on the surface, and we just sat there in total shock. And suddenly, as he was rolling in the water, I caught his eye, and he looked at me, and he dove again. Now I saw a trail of bloody bubbles coming real fast, and he came up and out of the water at an angle, so the next move was to come right down on top of us. He could have killed us. And as his head rose up out of the water, I looked into this eye that came up, and what I saw there was understanding. He understood what we were trying to do, because I could see he made an effort to pull himself back, and then he slid back into the water. I saw his eye disappear beneath the surface, and he died, and he could have killed us. So I was personally indebted to that whale for saving my life. So that's what I've been doing this ever since.
So you think the whale made a almost conscious decision not to harm you?
I believe that the whale did, yeah. That's what I felt, that's what I saw.
So what's the scariest thing that's happened to you on the Sea Shepherd?
Oh, the scariest thing, I think, was confronting 300 angry, drunken sealers in eastern Canada that smashed into our hotel while we were there trying to oppose the seal hunt. And they smashed down the doors, and I was in a hotel room with 2 police officers, and I said, "What are you going to do when they come through the door?" And they said, "Nothing." And I said, "Great." So anyway, they came through the door. I jumped into the next room and blocked it with put the bed up there to block it, and they took an axe to the door, knocked that down. Suddenly 30 of them were in the room, and I was looking at them, and I said, "Well, I'm not going to go down, without a fight." And one of them came over, hit me in the side of the head. I took him down with a stun gun. 2 more fell. And next thing you know, the police were in there pulling them all off. And so that was about the closest we came to getting killed.
That's amazing. After all the things you've done, the scariest moment for you is on land.
Oh, yeah, it has. That was worse.
But also you carry a stun gun. Wow.
Actually, they're illegal, but I had to, the police officers said, "Did you hit that guy with a stun gun?" "Yeah." So he was trying to kill me. He says, "Oh, okay, all right."
I'm lucky. You know what? I'm lucky you left me alone, because we're sharing a dressing room, and
yeah, I didn't bring the stun gun. I think.
Well, I know, but I was eating sushi.
I didn't see that.
I actually crept out of the room and said, "No more sushi."
So, truthfully, though, it's been a very satisfying life. I've worked with over 4,500 volunteers on the crew, and we've achieved some incredible results, including this year driving the Japanese whaling fleet out of the Southern Ocean Whale Sanctuary and shutting down. I think we shut it down for good now.
But in doing all that, you've attracted a fair amount of criticism, clearly from, sealers and whalers, but also from other conservationists as well. Do the ends justify the means?
Well, we've never injured anybody in our history. We've never been convicted of a crime. But people started calling us pirates. I said, oh, okay, we'll get our own pirate flag and we'll be pirates. If you want us to be pirates, we'll be pirates. And kids love it, so.
Well, how do you make sure then that you don't tip over the fine line and start becoming pirates? And I don't mean, you know, clearly ransacking
we have
ships.
to be very, very careful. 2 years ago, I was giving a lecture to the FBI Academy in Quantico, and one of the special agents said, well, you know, Sea Shepherd's walking a pretty damn fine line when it comes to the law. I said, well, who cares how fine it is as long as you don't cross the line. And we don't cross the line.
But how many ships have Sea Shepherds sunk?
Okay, 1986, we sank half of Iceland's whaling fleet and destroyed their whale processing plant, cost them a $10 million hit and shut them down for 17 years. Now, that might sound illegal. But
Yeah.
I flew to Reykjavik to present myself because they wouldn't answer my letters. And I landed. There's 150 police officers there to meet me. Chief immigration officer came up and said, how long do you intend to stay in Iceland? I said, I don't know. 5 minutes, 5 days, 5 years, you tell me. Well, we have to go in for interrogation. Oh, okay, sounds like fun. We went down to interrogation. He says, are you admitting to sinking these ships? Yeah, you know we sunk them. We're going to sink the other 2 at the first opportunity. They drove me to the airport, put me on a plane, sent me back to the States.
Wow.
And the Minister of Justice stood up the next morning in the House of Parliament and he says, who does he think he is? He comes into our country and demands to be arrested. Get him out of here. Iceland knew that to put me on trial would be to put the entire nation on trial for their illegal whaling activities. They weren't going there.
So how far would you go to protect the life of a whale?
Well, we'll sink a whaling ship, but we won't hurt anybody.
Right, okay.
Can I ask, how do you sink them?
Well, monkey wrench.
Really?
When they're tied up along dockside with nobody on them, you get into the engine room and you open up all the pipes and flood them and sink them.
I mean, there is a fine line. I mean, could it be considered that what you're doing is dangerous? I mean,
Oh, it's very dangerous. But these guys are poachers. They shouldn't be down in the Southern Ocean Whale Sanctuary. It is called a sanctuary. You don't kill whales in a sanctuary.
So, and who else is trying to stop them and what are they doing?
Well, Australia and New Zealand should be stopping them, but they're not.
Right.
So they're not upholding the law.
What's happening now?
I think that the Japanese whaling industry is out of the Southern Ocean for good.
Right.
And they won't be returning. And of course, you know, economically, they're going to have some severe problems here. And I just had a crew in Japan, and a couple of days ago, they were trying to stop the killing of dolphins there. And they were on the dockside when our crew leader saw the water receding. And he took the 5 crew members, and they got out of there as quick as they could and up a hill.
Yeah.
And 6 minutes later, it came in.
Right.
And they were on the hill watching the entire town being destroyed. And for 40 hours, I thought I lost them. Had no contact with them. Scott West was the leader there, and he finally called and said, look, you know, this is incredible. We walked out 10 miles through the most devastating debris you could imagine, bodies everywhere. Yeah. And he said the Japanese people that we met were extremely kind and considerate. You know, we're offering them food and everything like that. And that's one of the things I want to point out, though. In all of our fights with Japan, it's never been with the Japanese people. It's been with the whalers, and there's a big distinction there. And so we certainly are very sympathetic to what's happening in Japan right now.
And so next for the Sea Shepherd?
What we're doing really is for people, because we can't live on this planet with a dead ocean. The oceans die, we die. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
And, you know, I get criticized a lot of time for my opinions on this because I'm a hardcore ecologist. You know, 2 years ago I said that I got in trouble in the U.S. because I said worms were more important than people, and everybody got upset. And they said, how could you say something so outrageous? Well, because worms are more important than people. And the reason for that, worms can live on the earth without people, but we can't live on the earth without worms. We need them, they don't need us. We need bees, they don't need us. We need fish, they don't need us. They're more important than we. We're on a big spaceship, hurtling through space, and there's 2 types of species on this spaceship, passengers and crew. The crew run this ship, the insects, the fish, the worms. They give us the air we breathe, the food we eat, they take care of our wastes, they regulate our climate. We're just having a good time. We're the passengers, but we're going to be in big trouble if we kill off the crew. So we've got to protect the crew.
Captain Paul, I wish you every success in your next mission. Would you please thank Captain Paul Watson?